So many non-native speakers struggle with pronouncing numbers correctly. And this can be really important when you're talking about years, right? When the years change, when you're talking about dates like birthdays or dates when you're trying to schedule something, when you're talking about ages, there's a big difference between somebody being 17 and being 70, and especially when we're talking about money. There is a big difference between something costing $15 and $50, but it's even bigger when we're talking about tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. You really want to get your number stress correct then. A couple of weeks ago, I was watching an episode of the TV show Shark Tank. And Shark Tank is a TV show where entrepreneurs ask investors to spend lots of money investing in their company. I saw an episode with a young man from Ukraine who had been living in the United States for 10 or 15 years. So he was fluent in English, he spoke beautifully, he had a very slight accent. But something that I noticed on the TV show is that he had trouble pronouncing numbers correctly. And the investors asked him to clarify. They asked him to clarify if he meant 15,000 customers or 50,000 customers. Or maybe he was talking about money. I can't remember exactly. But this made me realize how important it is that non-native speakers get their number stress correct. So I wanted to make this quick video to work on number stress with you. The good news is it's actually really easy. It's actually really easy to understand the difference between the teens and the tens. So we're going to start with 13. If you notice when I say 13, the stress is on the second syllable, on the teen. And that's the same for the rest of the teen numbers. And you'll notice that my mouth ends in the N position. You may not really hear a rolling N sound at the end, right? 13. But my mouth definitely forms the N at the end of the syllable. So you want to make sure that you do that. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So that's how you distinguish the teens. You can hear that teen is stressed, which means it's longer, louder, and higher in pitch than the number, right? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. The stress is on the second syllable. So that's the same for all of the teens. You just need to make sure you're stressing the second syllable, making it a little bit longer, a little bit louder, and a little bit higher in pitch than the first syllable. You also want to make sure that your mouth is ending in the N position, right? 15. My mouth is ending in that position. And when you're speaking a full sentence, it'll be a little less obvious, but you still want to make sure that you're transitioning your mouth into that N at the end, right? 16. You want to make sure you end in that position. So now let's talk about the tens, right? And we're going to start with 20. 20. 20. If you notice, the stress is on the first syllable, 20. So the 20 at the end, the E, is much quieter. It's less loud, less long, and less high in pitch, right? It's less obvious. 20. So the stress is on the first syllable. That's how you distinguish between the teens and the tens. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So you notice that the first syllable receives the stress and the second syllable is a little less distinct because it's not stressed, right? 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. A lot of people will probably be saying, hey, I noticed that the T at the end, right, 20, you're not pronouncing it as clearly. And that's because I'm American and we do what we call a flap T between those two syllables, 20, right? It's more of a D sound, so it's a little more subtle. But I don't need you to worry about that right now. What I really want you to focus on is the stress, right? So if we notice the difference, 12 is not a teen, so it's 12 and 20, right? 13, 30. 14, 40, 15, 50, 16, 60, 17, 70, 18, 80, 19, 90. So do you hear the difference between the two pairs, right? Between each pair, you notice that the teen has stress on the second syllable and you can hear that N at the end. Whereas the tens all have stress on the first syllable, and then the E at the end is less distinct. It's less stressed, it's not as loud. So I hope that helps you understand the differences between these different numbers and the number stress that you need to be following. If you practice this, I guarantee people are going to understand you when you're talking about prices, dates, ages, and years. I really encourage you to practice this because this is a problem not just for people at the beginning levels of English, but fluent non-native English speakers. So if you give it a chance, practice, try to get it right, you're going to feel less frustrated when saying numbers in front of native speakers, which is generally what my clients talk about, how they can't get the dates correct even though they're completely fluent in English and their students or their colleagues don't understand exactly what they're saying. So practice that. Practice the difference between the teens and the tens and you'll get your number stress correct. I hope this tip has helped you, and if it has, please leave me a comment and let me know that this was helpful for you. Give it a thumbs up, and I look forward to sharing more tips with you very soon. Once again, this is Kim from EnglishWithKim.com. I'm your guide to the essential conversation skills you need to sound more natural in English. See you soon. Goodbye.